The spark of silence, the rain fell softly on the empty Hollywood street that night. Keanu Reeves walked alone, his face hidden beneath a soaked hoodie, his mind heavier than the storm around him. Cameras were gone, lights were gone, and silence was his only friend. He had just finished the final shoot of a film that everyone expected to be a blockbuster. Yet inside him, there was no excitement. Only a quiet ache that refused to fade. He kept hearing the same question in his head, one that haunted him for years. What is success if kindness disappears along the way? Keanu stopped near a small diner at the corner, the same one he used to visit with his late friend years ago. The windows fogged up, and inside, a young waitress was cleaning the last table. She looked tired but smiled as she saw him walk in. He smiled back gently and sat near the window. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. The waitress poured him a cup without asking. She had seen him before. She knew he liked it black, no sugar, no cream. She asked softly, "You okay, sir?" He nodded, pretending to be fine, but his eyes betrayed the truth. He looked outside where the streetlights flickered and reflected in puddles. He whispered to himself, "I used to think peace comes after fame. Now I know it comes after forgiveness." The waitress didn't understand what he meant, but she felt the heaviness in his tone. She quietly placed a small napkin near his cup. Written on it were 3 words, "You are enough." For the first time in weeks, Keanu smiled. Not the one he used for cameras, but a real one. He folded the napkin gently, placed it in his jacket pocket, and left a generous tip on the table. As he walked out, he noticed a man sitting on the sidewalk. The man was shivering, holding a wet cardboard sign that said, "Need food, not money." Keanu stopped. Without saying a word, he entered the diner again and asked for 2 sandwiches and hot soup. The waitress packed it quickly, realizing what he was doing. He walked back to the man, sat beside him on the wet ground, and shared the meal. The man looked surprised, almost in disbelief. "You're that actor, right?" he said between bites. Keanu nodded with a soft grin. "Not tonight, my friend. Tonight I'm just someone who can listen." They talked for almost an hour, about lost families, missed chances, and forgotten dreams. The man's eyes welled up as he said, "Nobody ever sat here with me this long." Keanu replied quietly, "Sometimes silence is the best way to heal another soul." When the rain stopped, the man looked at him with trembling lips. He said, "I once wanted to be an artist." Keanu smiled and said, "Then start again." No one can stop a heart that still believes. As dawn began to break, Keanu stood up. He took the napkin out of his pocket and handed it to the man. The man read it slowly. His hands shook as he saw the words, "You are enough." He smiled for the first time in years. Keanu walked away, blending into the soft morning light, unaware that a young journalist sitting across the street had captured the entire moment on her phone. By afternoon, the video went viral. People across the world shared it, writing captions about humanity, humility, and hope. But Keanu didn't know yet. He had already left the city that day. He took a flight to Hawaii, not for a vacation, but to find something deeper. A letter had arrived 2 days earlier from someone he hadn't spoken to in 15 years. The letter said only one thing: "The truth you seek is where it all began." And below that was a signature that made his heart stop for a second. Ana de Armas. The island of echoes, the airplane touched down gently on the runway of Maui. The morning sun painted the ocean gold, and palm trees danced in the breeze. Keanu Reeves stepped out, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses, his thoughts louder than the waves. He carried only one bag and one purpose. The letter from Ana de Armas still rested in his jacket pocket. He had read it more than 100 times during the flight. It had no explanation, no reason, just those haunting words. "The truth you seek is where it all began." As he drove along the coast road in a rented Jeep, his mind wandered back to the days when he and Ana were filming together. She had once told him that life was not about the roles they played on screen, but the moments they created off camera. He never forgot that. But something had happened between them, something that left both hearts scarred and silent for years. He reached a small coastal village where the mountains met the sea. It was far from Hollywood, far from noise, far from everything familiar. There, an old woman was waiting outside a small wooden house, her silver hair glowing under the sun. She smiled as soon as she saw him. "You finally came, Keanu," she said. Her voice carried warmth like a forgotten lullaby. He bowed his head respectfully. "You must be Leilani," he said. "Ana mentioned you once." The old woman nodded slowly. "She said if you ever lost your peace, you should find it here." Inside the house, the air smelled of jasmine and sea salt. Photographs hung on the walls, pictures of smiling children, sunsets, and waves. Leilani placed 2 cups of tea on the table and looked at him with gentle eyes. "She was here last month." Leilani said softly. She stayed for 3 days. She asked about you. Keanu's hands froze around the teacup. About me? He whispered. Yes, the woman replied. She said you had lost your way after the world made you a legend. She wanted to remind you that legends are only remembered, but humans are loved. Her words struck him deeply. For years he had been known as the man of few words, the one who smiled quietly, who lived simply despite fame. But inside he carried unspoken grief, the loss of his love, his child, and the peace he once knew. Leilani handed him a small wooden box wrapped in an old blue scarf. She left this for you, she said. Keanu's heart pounded as he untied the scarf. Inside the box was a seashell, smooth and white, and a folded note. He opened it carefully. It said, "Listen closely. The ocean remembers everything we tried to forget." He stepped outside and walked toward the shore. The waves crashed softly, echoing the rhythm of his heart. He held the shell to his ear and closed his eyes. A faint sound filled his mind, not just the sound of the sea, but a voice. Anna's voice. "You once told me that silence heals all wounds," it whispered. "But silence also hides the truth." He dropped the shell in shock. His breath quickened. Was it real or just a memory? Behind him, Leilani stood quietly. "Some shells carry more than sound," she said. "They carry unfinished stories." That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch, watching the stars reflect in the ocean. The same ocean that had once surrounded the island where they had filmed together years ago. He took out his phone and searched for her name. There were no updates, no photos, no interviews. Anna had vanished from the public eye months ago. As he stared at the empty screen, a message appeared. No sender name, just a number. It said, "Follow the light tomorrow at dawn." He looked out toward the sea again. In the distance, a small lighthouse blinked once, twice, then went dark. He didn't know if it was a coincidence or a sign, but something inside him whispered, "Go." The next morning, before the first light touched the sky, Keanu drove toward the lighthouse road. Mist covered the cliffs, and waves crashed violently below. As he climbed the hill, he saw a silhouette standing near the edge, a figure with long hair, facing the sunrise. His heart stopped. "Anna," he called out. The figure turned slowly. Her face caught the morning light. It was her, but she wasn't smiling, and the look in her eyes was not what he remembered. It was something else, something he couldn't yet understand. The light of truth, the cold breeze, brushed against Keanu's face as he stood frozen on the cliff. Ana de Armas stood only a few feet away, her white dress flowing with the wind, her eyes reflecting both warmth and pain. For years he had imagined this moment, but now that it was real, he couldn't speak. She looked at him quietly, her voice calm yet trembling. "You came," she said softly. "Your letter brought me here," he replied. "I didn't know where else to go." Anna walked closer, her footsteps careful on the wet grass. "You always knew where to go," she said. "You just stopped listening to your heart." Her words cut deep. He remembered the last time they met, years ago, when both of them were younger and full of dreams. They had shared something more than friendship, a bond built on trust and truth. But fame had separated them, and silence had finished what distance had started. "Why now, Anna?" Keanu asked. "After all these years?" She turned toward the horizon. "Because I found something that belongs to you," she said. She handed him a small envelope, worn and slightly torn. He opened it carefully. Inside was a photo, a young girl standing beside a motorcycle, smiling with eyes that looked strangely familiar. Keanu's voice broke. "Who is she?" Anna took a deep breath. "Her name is Maya," she whispered. "She's 15 now." The world around him went silent. The waves, the wind, even his heartbeat seemed to stop. He looked at Anna, searching for an explanation. "Maya," he repeated slowly, the name tasting unfamiliar yet painfully close. "Why are you showing me this?" Anna looked down, her eyes filling with tears. "Because she's your daughter." The words shattered everything inside him. He stumbled back, his mind spinning. "No," he whispered, "that can't be true." "It is," Anna said, her voice breaking. "I wanted to tell you years ago, but everything was chaos. After the accident, after the press, after your loss, I couldn't. You were drowning in pain, and I couldn't give you another storm." Keanu's chest tightened. "You should have told me," he said. "You should have trusted me." "I did," she said softly. "But I also knew you needed peace more than truth back then, and now she needs you." He turned away, his eyes fixed on the endless ocean. He remembered every quiet night he spent alone, wondering what he had lost. Now he knew it was not just peace, it was a life, a child. Anna continued, her voice shaking. "She doesn't know who you are, she only knows that her father is someone who walks with kindness. She saw one of your interviews and said, 'He looks like the man in Mom's old photo.' That's when I knew it was time." Keanu closed his eyes, holding back tears. "Where is she now?" he asked. Anna pointed toward the lighthouse. "She's waiting for us there. She wanted to meet the man who once gave her mother hope." He started walking toward the light without another word. Every step felt heavy, but something inside him began to shift. As they reached the lighthouse, a small figure stood near the door. A girl with long brown hair and eyes that carried both innocence and strength. She looked at him curiously, clutching a sketchbook in her hands. "Maya," Anna said softly, "this is the man I told you about." The girl looked up. "The one from the stories?" she asked. Keanu smiled gently. "Maybe," he said, "but I'd like to hear your stories too." Maya smiled shyly and opened her sketchbook. The pages were filled with drawings, oceans, stars, and faces. One face appeared again and again. He knelt beside her. "You drew me," he whispered. She nodded. "Mom said you once told her that silence speaks loudest. I drew you when things were quiet." His throat tightened. He felt years of emptiness begin to melt away. "You're an artist," he said softly. "You see what others miss," she grinned. "I just draw what I feel." For a moment, time stood still. The sound of waves faded, and only their breathing remained. Anna watched them silently, tears streaming down her face. But before Keanu could say anything more, the sound of an approaching car broke the calm. A black SUV stopped near the lighthouse. Two men in dark suits stepped out. Anna's smile vanished. "They found us," she whispered. Keanu stood up instantly. "Who are they?" "People who don't want this truth out," she said. "I told you, Keanu, this story isn't safe." The men started walking toward them. Maya clutched her mother's hand, fear rising in her eyes. Keanu stepped forward, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. "Stay behind me," he said. The wind grew stronger, the waves louder as the men came closer. One of them said, "Mr. Reeves, we need you to come with us." "Now." Keanu's heart pounded. He knew that tone. It wasn't a request. And in that moment he realized this was far bigger than just a reunion. Someone wanted the truth buried forever. The storm within the ocean roared louder as the men in suits moved closer. Their black coats whipped in the wind, faces hidden behind dark sunglasses. Keanu stood between them and Anna, his body tense, his eyes calm but burning with purpose. "Who sent you?" he asked firmly. The taller man stepped forward, holding a phone in his hand. "We represent a company that wishes to keep certain matters private," he said. "You have information that could damage reputations." Anna shook her head. "It's not about a company," she whispered. "It's about a film. About the one we never finished." Keanu frowned. "Ballerina?" She nodded. "The original one, the version that was never released." Memories hit him like lightning. Years ago, during the filming of that movie, there had been an accident, a scene explosion that went wrong, leaving one stuntman severely injured. Keanu had taken the blame to protect someone, but someone else had covered it up completely. "You're saying this is about that?" he asked. "Yes," Anna said. "The truth was buried, and those men were paid to keep it buried. But Maya found the old footage last year. She didn't understand what it was, but they did. They've been following us ever since." The men reached into their jackets. Keanu's instincts sharpened instantly. He moved a step forward, his voice low but commanding. "You're not taking them anywhere." Before anything else could happen, the sound of a police siren echoed in the distance. The men exchanged a glance, turned back toward their car, and drove off, disappearing into the mist. Anna exhaled shakily, holding Maya close. "They'll come back," she said. Keanu looked at her. "Then we need to leave this island." They drove back toward Leilani's house, silence filling the jeep. Maya sat in the back, sketching in her notebook, unaware of how much danger surrounded her drawings. When they arrived, Leilani was waiting on the porch, her expression heavy. "I saw them," she said. "They've been asking about you all morning." "We need a place to hide," Keanu said. Leilani pointed toward a small path behind the house. "There's an old fisherman's cabin near the cliffs. No one goes there anymore. You'll be safe for the night." That night, the three of them sat by a small fire inside the cabin. The sound of waves echoed through the wooden walls. Maya sat between them, her head resting on Anna's shoulder, half asleep. Anna looked at Keanu, her eyes full of old memories. "You never stopped helping people," she said softly, "even when you had nothing left to give." He looked into the fire. "Kindness is the only thing that ever made sense to me," he replied. "The rest of it, fame, noise, money, it all fades." Anna smiled faintly. "You're still the same." He turned toward her. "And you're still hiding pain behind strength." She didn't deny it. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB drive. "This is what they want," she said. "The truth about that explosion. It proves you tried to save the stuntman. But it also shows who caused it, the studio head, the same man funding your next film." Keanu stared at the drive. The truth he had buried to protect others was now the reason his peace was being destroyed. "Why show me this now?" he asked quietly. "Because your silence cost you your peace," she said, "and sometimes the only way to heal is to face the fire again." He took the USB drive and looked at it under the dim light. "If I reveal this, it could ruin careers," he said. Anna replied, "And if you don't, it will ruin lives." For a long time, neither spoke. Outside, thunder began to rumble. The storm was coming. As the first drops hit the roof, Maya stirred and whispered, "Are we going to be okay?" Keanu smiled gently. "We will," he said, "because truth never loses, it only waits." Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside. The door shook violently. Someone was there. Keanu signaled Anna to take Maya and hide. He grabbed a wooden stick lying near the wall and moved quietly toward the door. Lightning flashed, illuminating a shadow outside. He opened the door fast, but before he could react, a figure lunged forward, and it wasn't one of the suited men. It was the injured stuntman from that day. His face scarred, his eyes cold and unreadable. "You remember me, don't you?" the man said. "You took my pain and made it your story." Keanu froze. "I thought you were gone," he said. "I was," the man replied, "until they found me and used me to finish theirs." "Who are they?" Keanu asked. The man looked at him with burning anger. "The ones who made us both ghosts, and now they want you gone for good." Before Keanu could respond, the sound of tires screeched outside again. Headlights cut through the storm. The black SUV had returned. Anna ran out, clutching Maya. The stuntman turned toward her, shouting, "They followed you here." Keanu looked toward the cliff. There was no way down except the sea. He turned to Anna, his voice steady. "We're not running anymore." The men stepped out again, flashlights cutting through the rain. The leader spoke coldly. "Give us the drive, Mr. Reeves, and this ends tonight." Keanu tightened his grip on the stick. "No," he said. "This ends with truth." Lightning struck, thunder roared, and chaos erupted. The first man rushed forward, but Keanu moved fast, blocking the strike and pushing him back into the mud. The second man grabbed Anna's arm, but the stuntman pulled him away. Fists, rain, and rage collided. Maya screamed, "Stop!" But no one heard her over the storm. In the confusion, the USB drive slipped from Anna's hand and fell into the flooded ground. A beam of light hit it briefly before a wave washed it toward the cliff edge. Keanu saw it, dove forward, and grabbed it just as another wave crashed, pulling him off balance. Anna screamed his name, running toward him, but the wave swallowed him into the darkness below. Silence followed. Only the sound of rain remained. Anna fell to her knees, her eyes searching the endless water. Maya cried out, "Mom, where is he?" Anna whispered, her voice breaking. "He's where truth always goes first, into the deep." The breath beneath the storm raged through the night, swallowing the cliffs in darkness. The ocean roared louder than thunder, and lightning flashed over the waves. Anna stood at the edge, her hair soaked, her eyes wide with fear. Maya clung to her side, crying, her voice drowned by the sea. "Mom, we have to find him," Maya shouted through the wind. Anna's heart was pounding. She looked toward the black water, desperate for any sign of him. But all she saw were waves crashing against the rocks. "He can't be gone," she whispered. "Not again." Behind them, the stuntman limped closer, his face pale and filled with guilt. "We have to get out of here," he said. "Those men are gone for now, but they'll come back." Anna turned toward him, her voice sharp. "We're not leaving without him." He shook his head. "If he's in that water, no one could survive it." Anna grabbed his arm, her eyes blazing. "He's not no one." She ran toward the narrow path that led down to the rocky shore, ignoring the cold rain slicing against her face. Maya followed, holding the small flashlight tight in her trembling hand. When they reached the bottom, the tide had already risen. Waves crashed violently, but Anna's eyes caught something near the rocks, a piece of fabric. Black, torn. It was his jacket. She rushed forward, slipping on the wet stones, and fell to her knees. The flashlight beam moved across the surface of the water, and there, barely visible beneath the waves, she saw movement. "Keanu!" she screamed. Without a second thought, she dove in. The water was freezing, burning her lungs as she fought against the current. She reached out, her hand brushing something solid, his arm. She pulled with every ounce of strength left in her, gasping as they both surfaced. Keanu coughed, his body weak but his hand still gripping the USB drive tightly. "You held on to it," Anna whispered, tears mixing with rain. He smiled faintly. "Truth doesn't sink," he said, his voice hoarse. With the stuntman's help, they dragged him to the shore. He lay there, shivering, staring at the storm above. Maya ran to him and held his hand tightly. "You scared me," she said through tears. He looked at her and smiled weakly. "Sorry, kiddo, guess I'm not good at goodbyes." For a moment, all three sat in silence. The world was chaos around them, yet somehow it felt peaceful. Then from the distance, headlights appeared again. More cars, more men. They weren't safe yet. Anna looked at Keanu. "We have to go inland. There's a small monastery on the hill. They'll protect us." The stuntman nodded. "I'll lead the way." They climbed through the forest trail, wet and cold, following the faint path between trees. Keanu could barely walk, but he refused to let go of the drive. Every time he stumbled, Anna caught his arm, steadying him. "You should have let it go," she whispered. "And lose another truth to the world," he said. "No more silence." They finally reached the monastery just before dawn. The monks there welcomed them quietly, offering dry clothes and warm blankets. One of them, an old monk with calm eyes, looked at Keanu's face and said, "Truth always tests those who protect it." Inside the stone hall, Keanu sat by the fire while Anna treated his wounds. Maya slept beside them, her head resting on a folded robe. "She's strong," he said softly. Anna smiled faintly. "Like her father." He looked at her, surprised by her tone. She met his eyes. "You gave her strength without even knowing her." She grew up hearing stories about the man who walked through pain with grace. "I told her he was a friend. I didn't tell her he was home." Keanu's throat tightened. "You don't have to protect me anymore," he said quietly. "I'm not protecting you," she replied. "I'm protecting her from a world that breaks gentle souls." Before he could respond, the door burst open. The stuntman stumbled inside, breathless. "They found us again," he said. "They're surrounding the monastery." Keanu stood up instantly, ignoring his pain. "Then we finish this here," he said. Anna's eyes widened. "You can't fight them all." "I don't need to," he said, holding up the USB drive. "I just need to send this." The old monk stepped forward. "There is a computer in the library connected to the satellite line. If you send it now, the truth will go everywhere." Keanu nodded. "Then that's what we do." He and the monk rushed to the library. The ancient stone walls echoed with thunder as they worked to power the old system. Outside, the sound of footsteps grew closer. Anna watched from the corridor, clutching Maya clothes. She could see flashlights moving through the trees. The men were getting closer. Keanu inserted the drive into the computer. The files loaded slowly, grainy footage from the past, voices, faces, the truth. He began uploading it to a secure global network. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on." Gunfire cracked outside. The monks locked the gates, trying to buy time. Anna screamed his name, but he didn't turn. He watched the progress bar crawl toward completion. 90%, 95, 99. The door burst open. One of the men stormed in, shouting, "Stop it now!" Keanu turned, his hand still on the keyboard. "Too late," he said quietly. "Truth doesn't need permission." The upload completed. The man lunged, but the stuntman tackled him to the ground. Chaos filled the room again. Keanu pulled the USB out and looked at Anna. "It's done," he said. "The world will know everything." She rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. "What will happen now?" He looked toward the light breaking through the window. "Now maybe peace will finally mean something." But before anyone could speak again, another gunshot echoed through the hall. The stuntman fell to his knees, clutching his chest. One of the attackers had fired before being disarmed. Keanu caught him before he hit the floor. The stuntman smiled weakly. "You saved me once," he whispered. "Guess it's my turn now." His hand went limp. Anna turned away, sobbing. Maya buried her face in her mother's arms. Keanu closed the man's eyes gently. "Rest now," he whispered. "Truth reached first." The monks began chanting prayers softly as the storm outside started to fade. Sunlight broke through the clouds, painting the sea in gold again. Anna looked at Keanu. "What happens next?" He stared at the horizon. "Next," he said quietly, "we live the life we were afraid to start." And far away in cities across the world, screens lit up with the uploaded footage. The story of the accident, the cover-up, and the man who stayed silent to protect others. The truth was finally free, but for Keanu Reeves, peace had just begun its own journey. The dawn of grace, the morning light spread across the mountains like a quiet blessing. The storm had passed, leaving behind a calm sky and the scent of rain. The monastery bell rang softly, echoing through the valley. Birds began to sing again, as if the world had finally remembered peace. Keanu Reeves sat outside on the stone steps, his clothes still damp, his face tired but calm. In his hands he held a single candle. The flame flickered gently in the soft breeze. Beside him, Anna and Maya watched the sunrise in silence. The news had already spread across the world. The truth about the accident, the corruption, the cover-up, everything was out. Every channel, every newspaper, every website carried the same headline. Keanu Reeves breaks his silence. For the first time in years, he felt no weight on his chest. No guilt, no fear, no shadows, only stillness. Maya sat beside him, sketching quietly. She drew the ocean, the lighthouse, and three small figures standing on the cliff. She wrote under it, "Truth always returns." Anna glanced at the drawing and smiled faintly. "You have her soul," she said softly. Keanu looked at them both, his eyes glistening with emotion. "No," he said, "she has ours." The monks brought them breakfast, rice, fruit, and tea. It wasn't luxury, but it felt sacred. They ate slowly, talking little, letting the silence speak the rest. Later that day, the same journalist who had filmed his act of kindness in Lowe's Angels months ago arrived at the monastery. She looked nervous but determined. "Mr. Reeves," she said respectfully, "the world is calling this the act of courage that changed everything. People are asking what made you come forward." He smiled gently. "It wasn't courage," he said. "It was clarity. The truth doesn't need courage, it just needs love." The journalist nodded, touched by his words. She turned to Anna. "And you, Mr. Armas, what will you do next?" Anna looked at the mountains and said quietly, "Live honestly. That's all we ever forgot to do." Maya peeked from behind her mother and asked the journalist shyly, "Will people be angry?" The journalist smiled kindly. "Some will, but most will understand, because what your father did reminds people to be better." Maya's eyes widened slightly. "You said father." The journalist froze. Anna looked down, realizing the truth had quietly reached her daughter's ears. Maya turned to Keanu. "Is it true?" she asked softly. "You're my dad." The world around him faded. For a moment he couldn't breathe, then he nodded slowly. "Yes, Maya," he said. "I am." Tears welled in her eyes. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close as if trying to make up for all the years he had lost. Anna wiped her tears silently. For the first time, it wasn't pain she felt, it was release. That evening, the three of them walked along the beach. The ocean was calm again, the same ocean that had once swallowed their fears. Keanu walked barefoot, his feet sinking into the cool sand. Maya collected shells and laughter, while Anna watched them from a few steps away, her heart finally at peace. Keanu stopped near the water's edge and took a deep breath. "This place started everything," he said softly. "The silence, the pain, the truth." Anna walked up beside him. "And now it ends here," she said. "Not with loss, but with love." He turned to her. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "For believing in me even when I didn't." She smiled faintly. "You always had the light, you just forgot where to look." As the sun began to set, Maya ran toward them holding two seashells. "One for you, one for Mom," she said. "They both sound like peace." Keanu held the shell to his ear. He heard the faint whisper of waves and something deeper, the voice of a life reborn. They stood there together, three souls once broken, now whole again, framed by a sky of orange and gold. The next morning, Keanu returned to the mainland. Reporters waited at the airport, but this time he didn't hide. He smiled gently, bowed to the cameras, and said only one thing before leaving: "Truth heals." He didn't take new roles for months. Instead, he began visiting hospitals quietly again, funding schools, and teaching children how to find peace through art and kindness. Anna focused on directing small films that told real stories, stories about resilience and forgiveness. And Maya began painting murals in public spaces, each one signed with the same words, "For those who forgot the sound of truth." Years later, during an award ceremony, someone asked Keanu how he wanted to be remembered. He smiled, looking toward the audience where Anna and Maya sat. "Not as an actor," he said softly, "but as someone who learned that silence can hide pain and truth can free souls." The audience stood in applause, but he didn't bow. He simply looked up, smiled quietly, and whispered to himself, "Thank you for the storm." Outside the hall, the rain began again, soft, cleansing, gentle. The same rain that had once started his journey now washed away its end. And as he walked into the night, holding the same napkin that once said "You are enough," he finally knew what it meant. He was.